Hi there. You know, a lot of people these days have been involved and experienced in digital photography, but there's been a resurgence recently of people in digital photography who are looking into their roots, where the digital photography came from, and from film photography is what we're talking about. Now, I have done digital photography, but I started out in regular analog photography or film photography with a manual mechanical camera. That's what I learned photography on. So we're going to put these things off to the side for right now. Concentrate here. This little friend of mine is the Olympus, here we go, OM-1. And this is not a 1N, this is just the OM-1. This is beginning of manual 35mm SLR photography for the Olympus company. And their master designer, Mr. Maitani, put a whole lot of effort into this camera and the ones that derived from it later on. And we're going to take a look now. What I was going to say was that with the digital photography, the problem that always bothered me in doing digital photography is that I started out with the mechanical camera, the film camera, and learned photography that way. And then when you go from one of these to one of these, this is all computerized stuff. This is all manual stuff, mechanical. And so the way I learned photography was relating it to the controls, all the things that happen on these cameras. And that's a noisy truck. And doing the things on here, they try to emulate a mechanical camera, a camera from the 1970s, or, you know, automatic, partially automatic program camera, but it's got buttons all over the place, and front, back, all over, and you know, what is this? What is that? What is a lightning bolt? There's so many different things going on here. It's just really confusing to me. Whereas with a mechanical camera, because I learned on that, everything's right where it's supposed to be, and it makes sense. And you can change from a Pentax, an Olympus OM-1 to a Pentax MX to a Minolta SRT or a Nichromat FTN, any of those cameras, and they'll have some things that are a little bit different, but basically it's all done the same way. And the controls make sense because they're logical to what that control does. These are buttons on these things here. So what we're going to do today is kind of do this backwards, where I started with these and went to the electronic digital imaging cameras. We're going to take the person who does a digital camera and introduce you to how the mechanical camera works. Okay, OM-1, this is probably, my impression, this is the best one you could start with when you want to go full whole hog into film photography, is go to a completely manual camera. Everything's right there where you need it. You just got to get familiar with it, and then you're ready to go. And you'll understand what everything does on a camera, how it all relates. So let's take a look here. We'll go from the top plate. Yeah. Got to get used to doing things backwards here in the viewfinder. All right, over here we have the film rewind knob, because on mechanical cameras you have to rewind your film. It also releases the back. You can put your film in like that. By the way, there's no TV screen here on these. They don't have that. Here's your shutter. And let's see. You want to see what a shutter looks like and how it works. this here. All right. Now, here's your shutter. Watch it go. See it again? Let's see it a little bit slower. Okay. Do it this way. So we got a lot of light reflecting on it. Maybe you can see this. There. You can see it open and close a little bit. I could even see it. All right, so that's how an actual shutter works. Now, next to the rewind knob, we have the on-off switch. Now, this is electronics here. That's on, that's off. The only thing that turns on is the CDS meter that's built into the pentaprism that meters the light coming in through the lens. Okay. Next we have the pentaprism itself. And this one, these are an OM-1 or an OM-2, has a removable hot shoe. This one, because this is not an N, it's an OM-1 and nothing else, it takes a shoe 1 and that goes into this little thing here, and you tighten down a knurled screw here, and it holds the hot shoe on if you want to put a flash on it. And then when you don't use a flash, you take it off. The cameras look better without that silly hot shoe thing, little aircraft carrier tag on the top of it. But that's, you know, you have it or you don't have it. At least it doesn't pop open and make a flash come out. All right, next over on this side, we have here the film speed dial. And this is where you set your ASA. It's set now at 400. Next to it, there's this little chrome button right here. You have to press that down, and then when it's pressed down, you can change this setting for your film speed. That's how you do this. Also on this collar here around your shutter button, there's a little black dot here, and that lines up with what film speed you set up the camera on. Inside the knurled knob is the shutter button. That doesn't work because we fired the shutter already. So let's do that again so you can see it. Oh, and this little window shows the exposure you're on. All right, we got the film wound. I'm going to press the shutter button one more time so you can hear it go. Like that. I think that was a 15th of a second, I believe. Now, we have some other controls here on the front. When you're finished taking your pictures and your roll is done, this little dial here turns this way, and that releases the latch on the film take-up so you can rewind your film back into the cassette that it comes out of. And then when you're done, flip that back up. Now over here, this is an interesting little rotary dial. Same thing as what we had here. This one's a little bit bigger. And this one, let's see if I can do this here. This one is very interesting. Some of the idiosyncrasies that my Tanny put into these cameras. This dial here is the mirror lockup. See that? See in there? See, there's the mirror. And then the mirror's down, and then we can lock the mirror up. Now, if you are using a tripod, put your camera on a tripod or the long lens on a tripod and your camera connected to the lens, and you want to take some astro photography or some long distance photography with a very fast, very long lens, you might want to lock up your mirror when you go to take your pictures, because you get a lot of motion jarring in your camera from the mirror going up and down. See, that's just the shutter without the mirror. Well, there. Now, that's with the mirror going up and down. So that's something you won't find on an OM-2, but you still have it on the OM-1. Down below here is the mechanical self-timer, which I think goes like about 12 seconds or so. Let's try it. And it's got this little button here to start it. And while you're watching here, you can see when the picture's going to go right about here. And then the button pops up again. So that's a mechanical self-timer. Over on this side we have X or F Ps if you want to use X-Sync flash, or you want to use flash bulbs. Not something you see much these days, but with the times that these cameras came up, that was common to have a 35mm camera that shot flash bulbs. On the bottom we have a battery cover. Takes a nickel to open that. Next, this is exposed here. This is the gearing to connect the auto winder or motor drive. We have a tripod socket, and we have two electrical contacts that connect to the drive to send those signals back and forth. And that's it for all the controls, except for something very interesting that my Tanny did. When he designed these, or his teams designed this camera, I think they referenced a Nichromat for this, but they put the shutter speed dial concentrically around the lens mount right here. And you turn it this way, and up here, you can see the shutter speeds. And you set them with this control here on this dial. This is a shutter speed dial. Now, let's see about putting an Olympus lens on here. In fact, let me put the lens cap on. All right, so I have a red dot there, and the red dot here, and we're going to line up the red dots, put it together and twist, and listen for the click. And it's clicked into place. All right, so this lens that I attached is an Olympus 35 to 70. There. Olympus, let's see if I can show you here. 35. Yeah, can you see it here in the green? 35 to 70 zoom. This is a f4. And the 35 to 70 zoom, and back in the 70s and 80s, they started coming out with these short, slightly wide-angle to slight telephoto zooms that you could substitute from your regular 50mm, because it would be similar aspect ratio to depth of field and everything to what you'd get with a 50mm, but you could. It's kind of like you could get closer to your subject, or you could get further away from your subject, depending on what you wanted to do for your picture. So these, nowadays, you get a zoom like that, and that's considered your standard lens. But they kind of started with these 35 to 70s, which is like a 2-power zoom. It's not a whole lot, but they were inexpensive. Not too big, not too heavy. There was a lot more than that 50mm 1.8, but gave you a lot of stuff to do with your OM-1 or your OM-2. So we've seen the shutter speed ring. Beyond that, also concentric with the lens mount, we have an aperture ring. And this sets our f-stop f4, f5.6, f8, f11, f16, and f22. All of those right there. And there's no half-stop increments on the Olympus lenses. This is just click for each f-stop. So we have shutter speed ring and aperture ring. Now the next one we have, since this is a zoom and it's a two-touch zoom, which is kind of works better for the purposes of this, we have a third collar which is concentric to the lens, and this is our zoom collar. And you can see here we're at 35, and then we come up to 50, and then we come up to 70. So we have all the readings for our lens on this number 3 ring. And then, of course, we finish up with the number 4. We also have a focus ring. And it goes from 0.75 feet, focuses to infinity right there. Other controls, we've referred to this a couple of times. This is the lens release. That was a brilliant idea that Olympus had there. You know, let's just put the lens release on the lens. That's the best way to do it. And it is the best way to do it. Opposite this one, about 180 degrees away, at the bottom, there's another knob like that. And this one is the depth of field preview. And it is not part of the camera. The depth of field preview is built into the lens. And we all wish that all the companies had all put their depth of field previews on the lenses, rather than us have one that we can't do depth of field on. And the best place, because there's the least mechanical linkage, is to put it right on the lens, because that's where the diaphragm is that shuts down, that closes down and opens up anyway. Might as well put it where it should be. So, do you have any questions? That is our tour of the Olympus OM-1 and how all the controls operate. If you have questions or comments about it, why, please leave me a message in the comment section. Give this video a like if you learned something from it or found something interesting that you didn't know. And if I messed up something or didn't say something, let me know. All of you viewers have been real good about letting me know if I make a mistake on anything and straightening me out on it. So that's the only way that we can learn stuff, is to do that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.